Hey guys, what's going on? Wanted to do a kind of a, a philosophical video today. And the question that I want to propose is, do you even really need to lube and or film switches in the current year? Because, you know, they say pretty much all stock switches are good now. You know, they're definitely good enough to just use. The average person won't notice really anything, really nothing wrong with them, you know. Like I had Bobas, I have Bobas in here, which I've lubed and filmed, but I used them stock for several months and I thought they were completely fine. Didn't really see any reason to mod them at all until I got the idea to stream it, and then I streamed it. But but now that I have done it, I'm very glad that I did. What does lubing a switch, particularly what does lubing a tactile switch actually do? Because tactile switches by nature are not smooth. Just the very definition, there's like an element of non-smoothness to them, and so, you know, what do you get by lubing them? And these switches that I have here were already pretty smooth. Like, they didn't really need lube for smoothness. And keen-eyed viewers will notice that I use Krytox 205 grade 0 on tactile switches, which is like, usually people don't do that. They always say you should use Krytox 203 grade 0. I don't have to buy two different types of lube, dude. What the hell? I have one type of lube. I got a second type of lube for springs. I don't want to have to buy a third for... You know, but I figured these are supposed to be the Thok switches anyways, so we'll give it the Thocky thick lube, and that'll be cool. And as you've seen, they're pretty, you know, this isn't exactly what I would call Thocky. But it does sound pretty good. You know, these keycaps are not amazingly deep, but they're not bad. And it has been fun typing on this at work, for work. I work from home, so, you know, it's kind of like, not really, but, so, okay, what does the lube actually do in this case? Because smoothness, you know, and when lubing tactile switches, you don't lube the entire thing. You leave the legs unlubed, so that way the tactile bump is, you don't want to lube the tactile bump because that'll that'll lower the tactility. So you don't do that. So if you can actually still feel a little bit of unlubed feeling, and that's just in the tactility. So what does the lube actually do in this case? So I lubed the entire switch minus the legs, stem legs, and I didn't do the springs because the springs already had a little bit of lube on them, so I left that. But I did the inside of the housings, the stem, the whole stem minus the legs, the top and bottom housings, you know, and I did a film, so you could see. Essentially, the lube just, like, what sound-wise, what the lube does, it prevents extra sound from bouncing around inside the switch housing and generating more noise. So, like, for example, I lubed the four walls of the stem, so let me get something like thin to point this out with. So, you know, along here, This part was the rails here are up and down, but so you can think of it this way: in between the stem and the housing, there is a little tiny gap. I mean, there needs to be a gap for this, in order for this to work. But that gap allows extra sound to escape, and by adding lube there, the lube fills in the gap, but it doesn't, cause friction. It reduces friction, fills in the gap without causing friction, and that reduces unwanted sound and helps deepen it, just makes it sound better overall. So if you listen really closely, I'm not even sure if my microphone's good enough to pick this up. Was good enough to pick it up, but my stream was cut into 2 parts, so you can pull up the before and after. I did an unmodded sound test with these switches and different keycaps, and then a yes modded sound test at the end of the stream. So you can put them up together, and they're very similar, but just this one, the lube switches are a little bit deeper, but they're just there's less excess noise. Like it's just a solid single unified bottom out, single unified topping out. There's no extra crunches or takes or anything. So okay, what does lube do? Makes it smoother, deepens the sound, which most people want, Without the lube, the sound, switches are hollow inside, basically. There's enough room for sound to bounce around a little bit. So much like you would fill a hollow keyboard up with foam, you want to fill up a hollow switch with lube to prevent the sound from bouncing off, as best as you can, which with the thick grease, it does a pretty good job. I I pretty much just thought of that. Thick lube on switches fills in the gaps and prevents excess noise in much the same way that foam does with keyboard cases. I didn't literally just think of that, but I thought of that when I wrote this earlier in the week. So yeah, a good illustration would be what I just showed with the switch. How adding lube will prevent sound from being able to like escape the top of the switch housing. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. It is. I think these were lightly factory lubed, so they were pretty smooth already, and I guess they're a little bit smoother now, probably, but just the sound is much tighter. I think it just sounds. It sounds good, man. I think it just sounds good. So okay, I also filmed these. And what do films do? Let me take that switch back out again. It was you could see pretty well the film. So you can see that little plastic, right? Oh yeah, this one's all fucked up. Yeah, this is even better right back here. You can see it sticking out a little bit. It's just a little tiny piece of plastic that you put in between the top and bottom housings, and it fills in the gap. Most switches have like a little little tiny gap in between the top and bottom. Damn it. And this Q key is gonna be fucked. Oh, the film is fucked up from me doing this, I bet. So the top and bottom have like a tiny gap in most switches, and when you press the key down, and you have the force of the keycap on it as well, it causes the top and bottom to collide, and you hear that. It's kind of the best way I've said this before, but it's just kind of like a slapping sound. That's pretty much what that's what stock unmodded cherry switches sound like to me. Just like plastic slapping against itself. And I believe the very first films were originally made for Cherry MX Black switches, to pretty much to combat exactly what I just described. So most people go on about wobble and how films are there to fix wobble. I mean, films do help with wobble, but there's two types of wobble. There's stem wobble and housing wobble. Stem wobble is just from the stem. Housing wobble is like the whole thing. Films only help with housing wobble. Housing wobble is when this, the top piece wobbles slightly. Films help with that, but the more you don't really feel that as much as stem wobble, which is when the stem it wobbles. So films only help with housing wobble, and some people say they don't care about wobble. I don't really care about wobble, but if there's really bad stem wobble, that does detract from the feeling of like a linear switch. Tactiles maybe not as much, but good example, Gateron Yellow versus Duroc Linear. My friend had a keyboard with lube Gateron Yellows that he bought off a guy on Mech Market, and I was like, damn, that's really nice, and then so I wanted to get some linears, and just I was just gonna lube them myself. So I got, but I didn't want to get Gateron Yellows because I was like, I heard those are kind of a basic budget switch. I want something a little nicer, so I got Duroc linears off Amazon. I paid a little bit more than you generally would, but those was Amazon shipping, so Amazon Prime 2-day shipping, so like that was cool. I didn't mind that. But the Durocs had noticeably lower stem wobble than the Gateron Yellows, to the point where when my friend tried my keyboard, he gave me one of his switches, and I put it in the escape key or something. So he was comparing them, and he was like, dude, the yellow feels like tactile by comparison. And I was like, yeah, dude, it's because of the wobble. Because basically if the key is moving around like that as you're pressing it down, you'll actually feel it collide against the sides if it's bad enough, which the Gateron Yellows kind of are. It doesn't actually detract from the feeling of the switch, but it is when comparing with something without it, you do definitely notice it. Gateron Yellows are still perfectly usable. It's not like that makes them horrible, but when doing side by side, it just objectively one does feel better, at least by that metric. So that's what stem wobble, and stem wobble can't be really. You can't really fix that with any mod. Using thick lube would help a little tiny bit, but films don't help with stem wobble really. So the only way to really combat stem wobble is to have better, more accurate, more precisely molded stems. So, Glosses has described films as giving you a quote oneness of sound, which I think is a great way to describe it actually. I kind of describe it as rattle, but switches will just have, stock switches will have just a little extra noise, a little ping, a little crunch or a tick, just a little plastic sound, a kind of slapping sound sometimes. If it's a completely dry stock switch, then you'll kind of maybe hear a little bit of, not friction, but there will be a tiny bit of plastic on plastic action that you might feel and hear. I had one switch that I got in a switch tester. It was a Gateron Clear, which is a linear, a really light linear, and it was if I did this enough, it would squeak. It was a pretty smooth switch when just using normally, but it was stock. It would squeak a little bit. It was weird. And actually the Gateron Yellow that my friend gave me, I actually started doing that after a while too. I had it in my spacebar for a little bit, and eventually I noticed my spacebar was squeaking. So for that reason, I'm not really that jazzed about stock base Gateron switches. The higher end ones like the Inks and stuff are good, but Got her on reds, got her on blacks, got her on yellows. Nah, man. My tastes have evolved. So yeah, cherry switches, you know, as in like genuine cherry switches, are notorious for having a huge gap between the top and bottom housings, and, you know, also a lot of housing wobble. Causes a collision, kind of like a slapping sound, you know. Untrained ears would just perceive it as clack, but it's really actually an unwanted noise generated by poor switch tolerances. To my knowledge, the very first films ever made were made specifically for Cherry MX Blacks, which actually I might have said that already. And I also believe that Cherry MX Black was the first MX switch, so it's like the first films were made for the first switch. You know, it's like poetry. They rhyme. So, you know, filling that gap in with something such as a thin plastic film that fits perfectly inside will prevent that collision and will make the switch sound more solid, which is really the best way to describe it, I think. You'll hear something that more closely resembles just, you know, the pure essence of the key press, which is good, you know. It's basically filming your switches is kind of like gasket mounting them. The Q1 has gaskets in between, so there's the top housing, the bottom housing, and the plate. The Q1 has gaskets in between the top and the plate and the bottom and the plate, so there's two gaskets. They're called gaskets because the original gasket mounts were the O-ring, which was literally an O-ring gasket that you would get from like a car shop or something, and you would just like stretch it around your plate. Now that's evolved to just anything that prevents direct contact from the plate and the case is essentially just considered a gasket. And these are just little tiny strips of foam, which pour-on foam. Pretty much all gaskets are made out of pour-on foam. And, you know, actually it was kind of interesting. I was watching like a boot review. No, it wasn't a boot. It was a boot channel. This is like, I forget the name of the channel, but it's this guy who, like, he cuts boots in half so he could see exactly what's inside of them and tell you if it's, you know, exactly why they're good or bad based on what's, you know, the materials and the placement and the thickness and whatnot. And he did one with like the new Chucks, the new Converse, and because they, like, you know, that's another brand where their base shoes have gotten so cheap and poorly made that rather than admitting that their shoes are trash and improving their quality, which would increase the price, they kept the shitty quality ones at their normal price, and then they have just a higher quality one called like the Chuck Classics or something, and those are basically how the shoes should be made, but they cost like, you know, 50% more or something. I don't like wearing Chucks anymore. They just make me look. I have pretty big feet, so it makes me look like I have clown shoes on. But the thing that I thought was interesting about that was he cut those in half, and he was like, "Yeah, these actually use this special type of foam called pour-on." And I was like, "Oh, dude!" So pour-on is used for a lot of other things other than keyboard mounting gaskets. But so the gasket, prevents collision. There wouldn't be. It's not like, you know, if there were no gaskets, then the plate would be screwed directly in, which would be like, you know, whatever a tray mount is, like when the plate screws directly into the case is called a tray mount. The gasket kind of essentially just prevents that direct collision, the direct touching, which is kind of what the film does in the Switch. In the film's case, it's preventing a collision. It is preventing the touch as well, but more specifically a collision. And then this is kind of just preventing the general touch. But as you can see, the gasket compression. I don't even know if you can see that. Yeah, you can see that, right? it's kind of like what the switch does. Like, it's if there was not enough gasket compression, if there was not enough sufficiently thick gasket foam in this, then there would be a collision with the plate and the case, which you could see. Like, there've been a couple of Tehad streams where he built a keyboard like the Mode 65 with flex cut PCB that had so much flex that just typing on it would cause the PCB to bottom out against the bottom case, which, you know, is not desirable. But Tehad was like, you know, realistically, it's not actually like, it doesn't actually cause a problem or anything. You know, it's just kind of a weird feeling, I guess. But okay, so yeah, right, that's pretty much the whole gasket mounting film analogy. I do think that films are necessary, especially if you're going to be lubing. You should just film. That's what Glosses said as well. If you're taking them apart, just do the films. Filming is like not exactly an easy step, at least for me, because the films are so flimsy, and just picking them up wrong can cause them to fly off. But you know, it is worth it. If you're going through all this trouble, then, you know, you just kind of got to do it, man. So, okay. Now, getting into Boba switches specifically, it's been said that they don't require films because the housings are supposed to be tight enough that they don't have any housing wobble, and, you know, allegedly there would be no collision. By that metric, too, I've heard it said that, you know, some films won't even fit inside Bobas. Like, you know, the housings are so tight that the films don't even fit. Some people have these like super crazy thick films, which I don't use those. I just have like this cheap set of films from Amazon. The first time I did film switches, those are the ones I got. And then, you know, when I ran out, I got just more. The next time I did some, I just got more of the same ones, so that way it would be consistent. And then I've just kind of been using the same ones ever since. You know, just out of respect mainly. But I compared. I filmed one switch on the stream that I did this whole thing on stream, and I filmed one switch and listened to it, compared it with the rest of the unfilmed ones, and it did sound a little bit better. And I mean, a little bit. You know, approximately 5, maybe 10% better. So, and that's the real downside with this whole switch modding process, is that switches have gotten good enough that you don't need to mod them. But they will still get better if you do mod them, but only by about 5 to 10%. So, I guess getting back to the main question, do you really need to lube and film switches in the current year? You do not really need to, but I think you should. If you're watching this video, you probably should. If you're serious about your keyboard, as in you subscribe to mechanical keyboard YouTubers and subreddits, and you consume keyboard content as entertainment in your free time, and or you save up money for big keyboard purchases, then yes, I think you should do stuff like this. It's a lot of work, but you know, for only a small gain. But that's what it takes sometimes, you know. There's this guy Walshy, the greatest, quite possibly the greatest Halo competitive player who ever lived, and he streamed his entire attempt of going from rank 0 to 50 in the ranked playlist, 50 being max rank in Halo Infinite, the newest Halo game. I'm pretty sure he did it in one night. And at the end of it, his closing remark was like, guys, sometimes if you want to be the best, you got to get down and dirty. And if you want to have, and damn it, he's right. If you want to have the best keyboard, sometimes you got to get down and dirty. And, you know, just sometimes that's what it takes, you know. All right. Before I get into the sound tests, I think that about concludes this the philosophical portion of this video. I'll do some sound tests, and then that'll be it for today. But before I get into the sound test, I would like to issue an apology to Linus Tech Tips. I don't know where it is in my stream, but I spent a good probably 10 minutes talking shit, huge amounts of shit on Linus for selling a $70 screwdriver and a $250 backpack. I said that I lost all respect for him as a man, as a man and as a company. No, but I was actually serious when I said all that. But I felt kind of bad because Linus is a nice guy, and you know, I don't believe that he's trying to screw people over with anything he does, you know. And those like backpacks and screwdrivers, like they sell out all the time, so so people are buying them, and it's like I don't know if he's. I think I might have mentioned this. Like I might have said that I feel like he's just taking advantage of his fans. You know, they want to buy anything that he has his name on it, but that's not necessarily true. You know, the screwdriver it's a nice screwdriver. Okay, I compared it to that $13 bit I had from Lowe's, which has like a loose bottom so you can spin it in your hand, which is kind of the main feature of this Linus screwdriver, which is true. But you know, it's a proprietary design, I guess, and it has a special magnetic pull-out thing that holds all your different bit heads. So I guess the value is there. The backpack is actually the same way. I watched this video, this European guy, I don't know, this European guy with a very ambiguous accent. His name is Mudan. He did a review on the backpack, and he said basically it's actually not any more expensive than other premium backpacks of a similar quality online. So I guess the main reason I wanted, but that's not the real reason I want to apologize to Linus. The real reason is because that just makes, you know, I kind of feel like a hypocrite saying that you shouldn't spend $70 on a screwdriver when I've spent $400 on a keyboard, you know. And just like the sheer hypocrisy that I wasn't even aware of. It just like I didn't even consider that I was literally like actively working on a keyboard build that cost total about $450. So you know, okay, no. This build is not $400. This build is with my other keycaps on it, which are about $120. For all intensive purposes, these keycaps were $120 as well, but we don't have to get into that. That's maybe later. Let's see. The Q1 is $150. It's actually $180, I think, because there's like $30 shipping. And then switches. I probably spent. I probably got like $60 in switches in here. No, probably. Yeah, probably like $60-$70 in switches. So maybe call that $250, and the keycaps are $120. So $370. That's less than $450. Oh. So that's how much I've spent on just this keyboard, and I'm talking shit on Linus for selling a screwdriver that costs only $70. I mean, I could buy, for the amount of money I've spent on just this keyboard, I could buy the backpack and the screwdriver and get $50 worth of, you know, something else. So, jeez. When I thought about that later, I kind of felt bad. So, not that anyone. I guess I'll try to find that part of the stream, and I'll try to make. I'll either highlight it or just timestamp it in the video so you can see. And then maybe I'll timestamp this apology here, and I'll make a playlist called the Linus Tech Tips Saga. It'll be 2 videos. Okay. It's just that, I mean, I guess for me, screwdrivers and backpacks are not something I would consider spending that much money on, but, you know, keyboards and knives are not something that the average person would spend consider spending as much money as I have on either. So, like this knife was like $150. This, like, getting this thing used is like probably like close to $300 from Benchmade, because it's a Benchmade. Benchmade is like the Apple of knife maker. But I got this one used off a guy. It's got some, like, I don't know what this is, like drywall or something stuck in the grooves of the handle, and I cannot get it out. But I've had this thing for years, and it's gotten a little better, but you know, whatever. Kind of, it almost looks like it's supposed to be like that. So, yeah, I think that's it. I kind of the script I wrote for this kind of spiraled off into another topic of, like, you know, when does a hobby end? Is endgame real? Can it be accomplished? Should it be accomplished? And I actually have a good analogy for that, but I think that would kind of not really fit in this video. It would double the length. And it's only tangentially related to whatever the fuck I've been talking about for the last 30 fucking minutes. So I'll save that for probably a pretty soon video. I think I may reconfigure this just so you guys have something new to look at, or I do have another keyboard to talk about, but all right, I'm gonna do a couple sound tests, and that'll be it. I don't have any monkey types to turn in today, unfortunately. I guess I turned all mine in throughout this week, so my bad. But we will do a couple of regular tests and get to see. Okay, yeah. So I guess before that, an explanation. These keycaps are from a Leopold, so you can't buy these keycaps, but you can buy a keyboard that comes with these keycaps. I got this from mechanicalkeyboards.com. It's a Leopold. It was a full size. Leopold is famous for allegedly being the only company that makes true double shot PBT. So this is essentially GMK, but made out of PBT, not ABS. I don't have a GMK set, so I can't actually say how close one is to the other, but I have two Leopold keyboards. This one's OEM profile. The other one is Leopold profile, which is essentially Cherry profile. Which is, OEM is the same thing as that, just a little bit taller. Cherry profile is kind of shorter. I don't use the full-size keyboard that these keycaps came with. I literally just bought it because I like the keycaps. I liked the purple. I thought it was kind of nice. And they had like one left. There was one in Cherry MX Black at full size and one in Cherry MX Blue full size. So I bought the Cherry MX Black one. I used it for a little while. I do like not having a numpad, but I don't like having to like move my hand so far over, like, you know, like I would actually start getting like shoulder pain in my numpad arm because I would have to move my hand around the numpad to use my mouse, and I've gotten used to like having a pretty compact, you know, setup here. So I prefer no numpad, so I actually gave that keyboard to my roommate. He uses it at work. He's one of those guys that cannot live without his numpad, bro. Yeah, I use like a let's see, can you see this? I use a calculator on the up here. I have to turn it so that it's not in frame, but it's normally this way, and that's basically my numpad. If I have to type numbers in, that's, oh shit, that's basically what I would do. So and this has like the little receipt printer. It's nice, because the calculator on on Mac is not that great, and not having a numpad actually kind of sucks. So, but I just have this is my external numpad. That's the calculator. All right, let's do a couple of monkey types, and that will be it for today. All right, mouse click. All right, not bad, not bad. 144. That was a 15. I'll do like 1 or 2 more 15s, and I'll do a 60. Second, rather. That is. That one was pretty bad. Only 110. Not even worth showing. All right, let's do a 60. Fuck. Okay. I'll do a screen view for this one. Damn it. Okay. Oh. All right, let me drink some water. All right. Damn it, dude. Okay, I gotta like clear the first line with no errors. After the first line, I won't reset them. Unless I do, but I probably won't. Okay, that was fucking terrible. Okay, this is the last one for real. Okay, this is the last one for real. Okay, this. What? What? Oh, fuck, that was like painful, honestly. Oh. I went to the gym this morning. I'm a little sore. Oh wow, you can see me, dude. That's crazy, dude. Alright, but anyways, I'll give you one last look at the keyboard. Yeah, these keycaps, I was like, I messed up the spacebar. Leopold puts foam, they put like felt in just a little piece of felt in the top of their spacebar. And I accidentally ripped half of it out. Like there's like plastic ribbing that goes down perfectly down the middle of this. In fact, I gotta show it. What the fuck? And I think by having accidentally ripped out that piece of felt, I made I made it like way louder. So yeah, you can see there's only half the felt is in there. So, and that's pretty much like right here is right where my thumb hit. It's like, you know, this corner is where your thumb is. So, but yeah, that's I put that sound test up yesterday. I thought it was sounding particularly spacebar-y. But yeah, these keycaps, they don't actually work that great on this board. This is not a stock Q1 stabilizer, so it's okay, but this one's okay somehow. And this is, so like, I mean, look how much wobble that is. Yeah, that's why this one even gets stuck sometimes. The stem posts and posts are not making contact. It's only being held on by the switch, essentially. I mean, I could put new stabs in it, but I'd just rather use different keycaps on this. So, that's why I was kind of hoping that the Syracuse would be like a good replacement for this set, but the Syracuse have this problem, but for the letter keys too. You know, I do like the all black look on this. It's kind of nice, but the purple gives it that nice little touch. But okay, that will be it for today. 42 minutes. Look at that. A real brief one this afternoon, fellas. All right. Hope you guys have a good weekend. Talk to you later. See you in the next video. Probably be around this time next week. I think I've kind of settled into a groove where I could do one keyboard video or maybe one keyboard stream a week. Yeah. All right. That's it. See you later. Thanks for watching.